Welcome to a Friday edition of the Watch Party here on the Watch List. That's what this show is called. That's right. Sorry, guys. But I'm glad you guys are here. It's Friday, right? It's Friday. It's Friday. You guys got your drinks. What you drinking on for a Friday? I still have my water, but you guys might want to go ahead and get the party going with other drinks because there's lots going on. So much so I'm actually on time today. Just in case you guys didn't know. In case you guys were expecting me to continue to be late, it's not going to happen on these types of days. There's too many things happening, including my computer playing other audio that I don't effing want it to play. Still, let's get started on some of these things. I'm glad you guys jump in early. I was told by same Ma that I say hi to every morning that she's happy when I set the stream up a little bit earlier so everyone can start piling in and she can get all the accolades and highs and we love you, Ma, and all that stuff that they give. I understand the reasons for it. But the reasons today is because so much is happening. As you guys probably saw in the description, we've gone from Liberation Day, which was Donald Trump's beginning of his tariff policy back at the beginning of April. It's now the beginning of August when it's now time for reckoning. He's putting these things in place. He's pushed back so many things. It's been Taco Donald. It's been delays. It's been kind of agreements with nothing concrete behind it. But now it's time for him to have his unofficial deadline that he keeps changing finally come to fruition and things start to take hold. That is, unless he delays it further. Let's start right away to see what's been going on with our economy. Talking here was Jamieson Greer, who's the U.S. Trade representative, and he's been the one who has put his face in front of many of these things that Donald Trump has been doing, and now he's put himself and his face in front of a Fox Business camera to talk about this, and it doesn't look that good. Let's go.
This.
Jameson, how many more deals should we expect by year end?
I mean, listen, it's going to, well, first of all, it depends on the president. It could be a handful. It could just be, we have the tariff set. We don't need, more complex deals. As the president puts it, a tariff is a deal. A deal is the terms of trade we're establishing with our partners. Everyone is very eager for a deal, of course, and the president will go through country by country and determine which ones make sense.
All right, we'll be watching that for India as well. Jameson, great to have you this morning. Thank you.
He has no idea when there's going to be deals in place. It's up to the president, who also doesn't know when any deals are going to be put in place. But what he does know is that tariffs are a deal because, life changes for people like this when they're liars. But as you can see, things keep changing, things keep shifting, and there's never anything actually in place that benefits the American people. Jamieson Greer wasn't done talking and making a fool of himself. In fact, here's more of those goalposts that continue to shift when we were supposed to have great deals and so much prosperity in this golden era. Check out what he's saying as well on that same network.
So can you encapsulate where you are on the trade deals and what we should expect to come as of today?
Sure. So first of all, like you pointed out, for dozens and dozens and dozens of countries, we have tariffs at 15% and above, some as high as 50%. China with all the tariffs on top is well over 50%. So these are the highest level of tariffs that we've seen. And this is a great deal for the country. And the president has also agreed that if a country has another plan where we could have some level of tariff, but also some investment and purchases and market opening, that we can have some deals. And so you already know about a bunch of deals we have, Korea, Japan, Indonesia, EU, et cetera. There are others available if the president wants them. At some point, his view is maybe a tariff is better than a deal. So we certainly have some in the offing if he wants them, but we're very focused on making sure we can protect American manufacturing and be able to reduce our trade deficit.
Well, so can you?
Hey, what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? Oh, I mean, right now we just have some tariff rates that we've placed, and the president believes that those are the same as a deal. How come he didn't say those are the same as a deal when he said he's gonna have 90 deals in 90 days, 200 deals in 200 days, pushbacks until we have all of these great deals? Now deals equal tariffs. Tariffs equal a tax on Americans. Oh, that's if you're living in the real world. On top of that, he also acknowledged these are the highest level of tariffs ever. highest level of tariffs ever. Don't forget, tariffs are a tax on you. Your consumer rates and your prices are continuing to go up. We're looking at it with our own two eyes. But he said that's a good thing. No evidence of why that's a good thing outside of them talking about the billions and billions of dollars of tariff revenue that they brought in out of your pocket. I feel like I say it every day, but it's the same truth every day. So if the tariffs are the highest ever, that means the prices and the amount of money that they're stealing from you via tariffs is the highest ever. Weird how that works, but it's also weird how they keep saying it's such a wonderful thing. Don't you love being robbed? And if you're not being robbed and you start understanding how you're being robbed, Caroline Levitt was here yesterday that lied to you about how you're being robbed and the results of these disastrous policies.
The same so-called experts claimed that President Trump's tariffs would spike inflation and hurt American consumers. But consumer spending growth just accelerated and inflation remains right on track. For the past 5 straight months, core inflation has come in below market expectation and remains in line with the Fed's 2% inflation target. The same so-called experts.
Really? Is that the case? Because Caroline Levitt just said that these so-called experts, whoever they are, but they're so-called experts, whoever it is that's saying the correct things about what's going on, she can't name them because they don't pay attention to experts. But they said that inflation would spike and hurt consumers. But she said that consumer spending growth just accelerated and inflation remains on track. Really? Is that the case? Let's take a look at what maybe some of the experts have said about all those claims that she's making as things continue to fall apart right in front of us. But they claim we're in the middle of the golden era. Here's some information from those experts. It's from an ABC News article on the situation in the country right now. The Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge ticked higher. It's weird. She didn't say that. Okay. It ticked higher last month in a sign that Trump's broad-based tariffs are starting to lift prices for many goods. It's not just starting to, it's been lifting prices, but still it continues. Prices rose 2.6% in June compared to a year ago. We heard about that. The Commerce Department told this on Thursday. It's up from an annual pace of 2.4% in May. Now, excluding the volatile food and energy categories, prices rose 2.8% in the past year, the same as the previous month, which was revised higher. The figures are above the Fed's 2% goal. And the Fed's 2% goal is one of those reasons why, as these things continue to go higher than that, the reasons they haven't lowered the interest rates that Donald Trump is bitching and complaining about and going after Jerome Powell over. They're trying to fix the game as reality continues to slap them in the face. Here's a little bit more reality. Remember what Caroline Levitt said. Because in reality, on a monthly basis, prices ticked up 0.3% from May to June, while core prices also rose 0.3%. Both figures are higher than consistent with the 2% target. Weird. The government's measure of gas prices also jumped 0.9% from May to June, while grocery costs rose 0.3% as well. Many longer-lasting goods that are heavily imported saw clear price increases, with furniture prices up 1.3% just last month, appliances up 1.9%, and computers up 1.4%. Imported goods are on the rise at a much higher rate. Now, previous to this, and as the market continued to go up and down, as currently right now it's down because his actual policies are being put in place for many of these countries. Every time the market goes back up, it's when he puts a pause because he needs to try and manipulate how these things are looking to people who aren't paying close enough attention. But as all those games are being played with the stock market and rich people and people who have the opportunity to actually invest in the stock market, read that as some kind of a guide or a gauge of what's happening. As you go to the grocery store, things change. And as he has this 50% tariff on Brazil, who's a big importer of coffee into this country because of Bolsonaro, his best friend tried to rig or was upset because he lost an election just like Donald Trump did. And since he's now up on his same kinds of charges where he tried to develop some kind of a coup on the country, he's also put some tariffs on them as well because he's mad about his boy. That's the basis for why he's raising prices on us. I'm just going to point out the things that are a reality as they continue to tell these lies. But the one thing they can't keep lying about is those job numbers. This is affecting everything. Don't forget, They talk about how this is the golden age as they fire tons of people. And as these policies come into place and businesses slow down their growth, they slow down their hiring and they slow down their money making. Just talked about earlier this week, if not last week, how GM is losing hundreds of billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars over a period of time. Ford is projected to lose $2 billion in this year. And when that happens, this is also what happens to the job market.
The NASDAQ down about 200, going 73,000 jobs. 73,000 jobs created in the month of July. Number just coming out.
And that's total.
4.2% is the unemployment rate, right in line with expectations. Here are the numbers. For the month of July, jobs came in at 73,000. That was lower than the expectation, which called for 110,000 jobs. The unemployment rate right in step with expectations at 4.2%. Steve Moore, your reaction.
Look, I think this is all a result, this disappointing number is a result of all the turmoil over tariffs and the trade wars. And
the NASDAQ.
You think so, Steve? So they're projected to have 110,000 jobs of growth for July, down to 73,000. You saw all the reactions from those folks when Maria Bartiromo got those numbers, and gasps were happening on the set. Like, I can't believe this. How is this possible when someone's destroying the economy and ruining the job market? How is it possible that we lose jobs or actually don't get the same number of jobs that we had anticipated for the month of July? If you pay attention, you'll also realize that that same Maria Bartiromo had to give that same similar kinds of news about the job reports from July. It sounds like it's 2 months worth of this happening.
Of course, President Trump is talking about this bill leading to growth in the economy. We are waiting any moment now to get the jobs numbers for the month of May. The expectations call for the ADP numbers to be up 95,000 for the month of June, rather. It's the June jobs data. And we'll, of course, right now seeing the number actually show a decline in jobs, down 33,000 on ADP. The bill includes $25 billion for the Golden Dome, the missile defense system. Senator, you introduced a bill supporting the construction of that system. I want to get your take on defense and whether or not that, of course, President Trump.
She wanted his take on defense and the big bill at the time that they were negotiating and trying to figure out how to put it past enough Americans to not revolt in the streets over it. But in June, they also had disappointing numbers. You notice every time they run up on those disappointing numbers, there's how is it possible? How is it possible? No, you have to find the line between the folks who support this president and everything that he does blindly, behind the people who know how bad this is and are trying to play the game, versus people who are too gullible to not realize how these things work. And when experts tell you how these things work with basis behind it, history, normalcy, numbers, life, reality, all those things. And when those things kick in and actually happen the way that those people with Trump derangement syndrome have always been talking about the truth behind happening, how they still gasp when the stuff happens and they're looking at it. How is it possible we're losing jobs when we're completely suffocating the job market? This is odd. How is it possible that businesses aren't hiring or investing when they're losing money in a capitalistic society that forces them and makes sure that you're only going to be successful or have any kind of viability if you do everything you can to make as much money as possible? So once you start losing money, you start punishing your consumers and potential employees and current employees by getting rid of those folks, not hiring more, and raising prices. What do you think that does when people don't have jobs, have less income, or looking for other jobs that probably provide fewer dollars of income, and then prices for normal things that they buy every day go up? What do you think happens to normal people when that goes down? I mean, maybe you should ask Stephen Miller, who's talking about third world countries and how we get to that point. That's how we get there. But in the meantime, those same third world countries that Stephen Miller puts on everyone else as these white supremacists try and turn America into that, what happens is they try to pull a wool over your eye and say, as we see these disappointing and depressing job numbers, the labor secretary, I believe is who this is. Let me make sure I'm talking about the right person. The labor secretary, Lori Chavez de Remer. As we're seeing all this bad news, This is apparently the way that they're going to try and pose it.
The president has done a wonderful job in these trade deals. We're seeing more and more countries come to the table, and this is another leg of the stool that can be assisting the American worker and the American business, and he's choosing not to do so. We need those interest rates down so that our businesses can borrow more money at a cheaper rate and invest in their companies, invest in the American economy, and grow this economy even better. We've seen positive job growth. We have seen consumer confidence go up. We've seen unemployment hold steady. While we could have seen better jobs numbers, right now we're seeing American workers are being put first. Native-born workers account for all of the job growth, and that's key. And the president is going to lean in, and all of his secretaries are going to lean in. And I can tell you this, what I'm hearing on the ground is positive. People are excited about what's happening on the ground. We're setting the table for a positive economy, and the American worker is going to win in this occasion because the president has their back.
One quick point.
The president.
None of anything that she said is based in any kind of fact. None of it. None of it. Those are just promises, projections, and trust me's. That's all it is. She goes, we need interest rates to go down. They need interest rates to go down so they can try and look better as this economy crumbles. And as Jerome Powell pointed out, we have to wait and see what happens. As it's August 1st now, the waiting and seeing is turning into some issues. Donald Trump is going to have to respond, or rest these idiots that surround him are going to have to respond with some other kind of delay or change, or, well, we'll change it this way and we'll delay it further and make something else happen to artificially make it seem like what's happening is not happening, as people like Lori Chavez DeRemer tell you that native-born workers are the ones that got the 73,000 jobs this month in this disappointing job numbers that just came out. It's only native-born workers. It's all those illegals, as they call folks, that we're getting rid of out of the country that would have had the job growth that we just got eliminated while people actually see what's happening in their lives. They tell you some false reality as you live yours and expect you to just go on and believe theirs. This has been the plan. It's been consistent on absolutely every issue, not just the economy, but him stopping all these foreign wars, him allowing Vladimir Putin to do whatever the hell he wants, his bombing of these Iran nuclear sites based off of zero intelligence, just off of what he wants to do to follow Benjamin Netanyahu, his plan to continue this genocide in Gaza. Everything that he says is going wonderfully is not going wonderfully if you actually look up and take your head out of his ass. But that's their plan, for you to continue to think your reality is not real. The reality is going to continue to get real, because the only reason it's taken this long is because people anticipated how bad this would get, and they stockpiled, big enough companies, large enough, stockpiled their product or what they were importing, knowing it was going to get this bad. They said it and they did it. Walmart guys said the prices are going up. Guess what's going up? Prices at Walmart. Jeff Bezos and Amazon pointed out in their filings when things went up. This is based off of Trump's tariffs. He got mad at them and told them to take that away, so they took it away. It's constant cover for incompetence, because all we have in the federal government now is a bunch of incompetent people who lie to you every day about how incompetent they are. So again, pay attention to what the labor secretary said about it's all these foreign-born people that we're getting rid of that's made the job market crater like this, right? So how about some actual information from another source that isn't looking to kiss Donald Trump's ass? These are more of the details of how bad this has been and continues to be. It got worse.
Pick it up. Anyway, this morning's jobs data came in much weaker than anticipated at 73,000, but it's the revisions that people are really focused on. Those downward revisions put the average rise in payrolls at just 35,000 over the last 3 months. Let's take a deep dive into the data with Michael McKee, Bloomberg's international economics and policy correspondent. And Mike, we were talking off air about how there's always a margin of error when it comes to these figures, but boy, those revisions look really ugly.
The revisions are really ugly and really interesting. We had just 14,000 jobs created in June, according to the revised numbers from the BLS. It was 147,000, took everybody by surprise when we first got those numbers. Private payrolls, only 3,000 in June, 83,000 in the month of July. Private payrolls were 74,000, half of what was created last month. So it is a major, major downward revision attention to the strength of the labor market, which was something that Jay Powell was touting at Wednesday's news conference. Now, the unemployment rate is just 2 basis points, less than 2 basis points, really, from 4.3%, almost a bigger jump there. We went to 4.2, which is a rounded number, 4.248. It does show you that we did have a lot of people losing jobs during the month, and we almost got a much bigger move, except for the fact that the labor force went down significantly again, 38,000 after 130,000 in the month of June.
It's getting worse from month to month to month. There's revisions. I'm not sure if you guys know about this, but there's revisions in the job numbers from all the aspects that they do once a month. Look, so we just got these numbers, of course, from July, just now on August 1st. But revisions will happen. Sometimes they get better, sometimes they're worse. These are the primary numbers, and generally they may stay, I guess, or when the changes happen, they're either surprising and happy for the folks that are in charge, or they're disappointing even more. It's pretty bad when the job numbers are disappointing on the day of, and then as the revisions come in later about what happened in June, it's even worse. And the details that they point out there on Bloomberg, where they're not looking to kiss Trump's ass in this particular moment, is that these ugly revisions only had 35K in June. 14,000 of those jobs that they were talking about being created there, and only 3,000 in private payrolls. So in those private payrolls, I assume things like, smaller businesses, where they have less of an opportunity to try and get ahead of the game the way larger corporations and companies can. They're having even more struggles in those. So again, I'm wondering when the small business groups that support Republicans are going to have their hair on fire and come for this guy yet. And as the labor force continues to go down, just people even trying, I assume, to get jobs, as everything is looking negative and down, and on most of these charts talking about the stock market and where it is dropping down and having lower numbers, at some point, people have to stop acting like this guy knows what he's doing past just stealing people's money. He definitely knows how to do that. So the reasons why they continue to pitch all of these like glorious names and golden era that they slap on things is because Donald Trump is a game show host. Donald Trump is a propagandist. Donald Trump has always just had artificial names for the failures that he actually has. And the more failing that he does, the more he says that they're wonderful. So again, I feel like I broke through so much of the failures that are going on. And as people literally see the failures that are going on, this is what Donald Trump has to say. And I want you to listen closely and try and figure out where his source is for this declaration that he's making.
We're taking in literally trillions of dollars for the country. This is making our country very rich and respected again. We have, I tell these people, and I say it as much as I have to say it, but every leader is at NATO, and I was in the Middle East with the 3 great countries, 3 great leaders, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and everybody said the same thing. All of the NATO countries, essentially, they said that we were a dead country. 1 year ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country in the world. Look at you people. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're doing great. Yeah. Do you have a country? Which
Why are NATO people going and privately telling Donald Trump, your country was dead a few years ago, and now it's the hottest country in the world. It's the hottest country. I talked to everyone. I talked to Middle Eastern leaders. I've talked to NATO leaders. All of them say that you're the hottest country ever. You're the hottest ever. I played it before. Maybe I should play it again. Donald Trump's own ass was standing there talking to Saudi Arabian leaders a couple months ago and said, United States is the hottest ever. And then he edited himself and said, actually, I'm not going to say you guys are the hottest. You're the hottest ever. I feel like the only person talking about other countries being hot and hotter is this guy. No one's running up to Donald Trump and saying, you guys are hot. You're hot. You're so hot. You're hot. You're so hot. I can't believe it. I'm so envious of you. I wish I was you. Nobody's doing that because they understand what too many Americans don't understand is happening right under their noses. As their wallets get emptied and their job opportunities and projections of actually advancing in this country, this land of opportunity, as those dry up, I believe they're beginning to see it. So, I guess hot is just all the pressure that people have under their collars as things really get bad. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Some serious changes will have to take place. Now, we have to continue down this trajectory and this line in order for it to continue to go that way. I'm not sure how you change it up now when the guy's talking about how we're in the golden age. So to start doing things differently would be an admission that we're not in some golden age, and that people aren't losing jobs, and the job markets are not changing, and that prices are not going up. They've been lying about this for years, all the way through his campaign. What's going to change now? Instead, he's still going after Jerome Powell to lower interest rates. Welcome all you guys who just got here and missed that that tornado of a story talking about our I guess Liberation Day 2.0 or Day of Reckoning. It's August 1st. His policies economically are kicking in. And we're looking at this. So everyone who just got here, please go ahead, like, subscribe, share this stream. This story will go back up on the watch list later, along with a couple others that you guys can also check out, like, share, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to it. I'm just giving you the rundown on how these whole things work. So there's another story that is going down that you will find a little bit later. And I didn't miss it. I just didn't do much yesterday on it. And we've been talking about this for a while now. I feel like I ran through all the things, several of the things that are going wrong in this administration. But the one thing that he continues to have to fight with, this guy, this president, is that his whole Jeffrey Epstein problem just won't go away. As a matter of fact, it's getting worse. And you can probably see it all over his face whenever he's asked about it. Here he is being asked about it.
But also, the family of Virginia Giuffre released a statement overnight in response to some of the comments that you made this week. You said that Jeffrey Epstein stole people from Mar-a-Lago. At the time, did you know why he was taking those young women, including Virginia?
No, I didn't know. I mean, I would figure it was ABC fake news that would ask that question, one of the worst. But no, I don't know really why. But I said, if he's taking anybody from Mar-a-Lago, he's hiring or whatever he's doing. I didn't like it. And we threw him out. We said, we don't want him, at the place. This is a story that's been known for many years, as you know. But it's, I didn't like it that he was doing that. Yeah, please.
But also,
whenever his feathers get ruffled like that by a simple direct question, it's based off of the thing that he said on Air Force One, talking about how Jeffrey Epstein stole Virginia Giuffre from him. Virginia Giuffre, of course, being one of the prominent names that came forward talking about the abuses and the trafficking that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell pulled off and included her in. So as he talked about it and gets asked about it, for some reason, Rachel Scott, I believe it was, from ABC News, is suddenly the worst. And I can tell it's from ABC News. You must be the worst ever. Why you got to bristle over somebody asking a question of what it is that you brought up? I mean, the guilt is written all over his face every time he mentions something about it. It's when he gets mad about it even further and distracts from the actual problem. So why can't you answer the question? This story's been out since forever. Everybody knows this. I'll give you information on what everyone knows about what's happening. But again, they're talking about Virginia Giuffre, who he just dismisses as some kind of property that was stolen from him by Jeffrey Epstein. He has no idea what it was that he did once he, quote, stole her from him in Mar-a-Lago. Her family sees her still as a human, and they didn't like that all that much.
She wasn't stolen. She was preyed upon at his property, at President Trump's property. And I think it's very important that we don't treat it like stolen. Seems very impersonal. It feels very much like an object. And these survivors are not objects. Women are not objects. What goes through my mind is that it's time to protect survivors, and it's time to protect the young women and our future generation of young women. So no, she wasn't stolen. She was preyed upon. And it certainly makes you kind of ask the question, how much he knew during that time, right? Even a couple of years later, even after he, you know, I believe he had stated something along the lines of cutting off communication or kicking him out. You know, he described Jeffrey Epstein as somebody who really enjoyed being around young women. And so she was preyed upon. She wasn't stolen. That's a predator that came and took her and did absolutely horrible things to her and so many other women out there.
There's real life and there's real people behind this story. So as Trump continues to make this purely political and have everything to do with him trying to protect himself from this, which, you know, that's what people who are covering things up will do. When you actually speak to folks, families who don't want to be on TV having to cry over their deceased family member based off of what it is that these guys did to her, but they have to come forward and talk about it because that asshat keeps talking about her as some piece of property, even in this moment when he's trying to cover his own ass over it. I don't think they have the desire to be there and talk about this on CNN. But now they have to because he's now damaging her name further after she died earlier this year. We have to sometimes have perspective as to what this is and what it means. By the way, you know how Republicans were, you know, as they demonized immigrants and they wanted to talk about how there are rapists, murderers, and killers. And there's this anger and vehement, the types of rhetoric that they use to talk about them just to make sure enough people are afraid of them so that they'll vote them in to then have this mass deportation policy and destroy so many people's lives. As they pulled that off, they had these stories of women being killed by murderers that came into the country. And then they'll have other stories of young girls being assaulted by folks who came in the country. And they said, these are the reasons why we have to get rid of anyone that I deem illegal. But for some reason, we know Jeffrey Epstein did all those things and much worse in an organized crime ring based off of it with the help of rich people and servicing rich people in his child sex trafficking ring. When they do that, there's no anger about them. It's just, I mean, he stole her from me and I didn't like that. Why didn't he tout out the family members the way that these Republicans tout family members and introduce bills based off of trying to demonize migrants over it? Why is it these guys haven't been behind him at the RNC? They're families of the victims, and there's plenty of families of victims. I'm gonna give them a little bit more time to talk about what is it they're frustrated by.
Your sister was just 16 years old when she was working at Mar-a-Lago in 2000, when she was recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell. As this has played out over the last few weeks, I imagine you were probably quite surprised when the Justice Department sent their number 2 in charge to go and sit down with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, we were very surprised. I think, you know, she was preyed upon by Ghislaine Maxwell as well as many other predators out there, but she was preyed upon at Mar-a-Lago. And we were very shocked and very surprised that, you know, they were giving her a voice and giving her a platform to essentially possibly make a deal. And, you know, reality to that is that there's so many survivors still out there that are affected by that, including my sister, who's not here to speak for herself. And I think it's important that we stand beside them, that we stand in front of you and in front of everyone out there with a sign of strength on my sister's behalf, because she's not here to do that herself. But we stand with survivors here. And I want to make it clear that, you know, she does not get the opportunity to get out. She deserves to rot in prison where she belongs because of what she's done to my sister and so many other women. And it's absolutely a pure sense of evil.
They haven't had these guys, her family, at any events to talk about how devastating this problem is. They campaigned on ending child sex trafficking of all these nefarious folks are doing in the country. And then when you have a direct example, probably the biggest one we've seen, where we can see exactly how these things work and who potentially the clients of these folks are who enable these things to keep happening. How many other child sex rings are happening on a much smaller level in the country? I thought they're going after this. Kash Patel is looking to end all this, but haven't spoken to her family. Instead, talk about how he has the right to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. For what? For giving more information on information that was already sifted through and created and investigated by previous FBIs, and that they said now doesn't exist? They need Ghislaine Maxwell, and he has the right to pardon her. What a slap in the face. Imagine a president on this same line of them talking about people that were killed by migrants, then the president coming forward and saying, I'm looking to actually pardon these migrants that were convicted of murder and child sex trafficking, just in case they have more things they need to tell me. We have to think about this outside the lens of the bullshit that they keep telling us. They would never do it because they've slanted many people in our society's brains to think, yo, white person who has run this child sex trafficking ring, along with the president of the United States, who had a lot of questionable things to say about him and what he was doing. Those folks, I may want to pardon them in case I want more information. That's a slap in the face. And enough people aren't saying how much of a slap in the face that really is. But you know what? Michael Wolff, who gets interviews with many of these folks and has talked to many of these people around Ghislaine Maxwell and the Epstein things and Donald Trump and his background behind him, he had a very, this is a revealing moment where he talked about potentially the reasons why they talked to Ghislaine Maxwell and why they did it secretly, and also in connection to that whole birthday book. Remember the birthday book that the Wall Street Journal reported about that Donald Trump said he's going to sue them over because he had hair on fire over it? There's a reasons why they're sweating over it. Michael Wolff tells us why.
In the White House, they believe that the story in the Wall Street Journal about the birthday greeting that Donald Trump, the salacious birthday greeting that Donald Trump sent Jeffrey Epstein in 2003 on the occasion of his 50th birthday, was a leak from the Maxwell family. And in the White House, they regarded this as, quote, a shot across the bow. So a threat, if that Ghislaine had damaging material on Donald Trump. So Donald Trump's lawyer, who, as it happens, is also the number 2 in the United States Justice Department, but principally is Donald Trump's own lawyer, went down, and I expect to try to figure out exactly what Ghislaine Maxwell has, and then they would figure out how they might have to handle that.
The cover-up reaches so many broad swaths of this story. So that Wall Street Journal article about the birthday book, where Donald Trump drew the picture outline of a woman in her breasts and then scribbled his name as her pubic hair. When he got upset and said he's going to sue the Wall Street Journal over that whole story, and then days later, maybe a week later, sent his personal attorney, who's now the deputy at the Department of Justice, to secretly talk to Ghislaine Maxwell, as Michael Wolff pointed out there, that story being leaked to the Wall Street Journal was potentially a shot across the bow, as a warning shot to Donald Trump, potentially from Maxwell's family, saying, we have dirt on you. So they had to rush secretly and hurriedly to go talk to her, to be like, what do you got, Ghislaine? What do you got? And what do we have that you need? We can only speculate, because the most transparent administration in history isn't being very transparent about what it is they're doing with this cover-up. So as they went there to try and adjudicate this and figure it out and find some way to get rid of this, Ghislaine Maxwell was also, I think, still being subpoenaed by Congress. And then once they subpoenaed her, she had this laundry list of demands to make sure that if you're gonna subpoena me to talk, I need to be exonerated of everything. I need to be released from prison. I need to have the interview not inside the jail cell. She had like a whole list of things as if she should be in this place of control because she feels she is now, along with the attorney who's best friends with Donald Trump's attorney, who went there to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell and her attorney. She's like, well, if Congress wants to talk to me, they're going to have to provide me with some of the protections that Donald Trump's personal attorney, who's now works for the Justice Department, promised me as well. She's got the cards in her hand. She's like, well, I got information. Who wants it? Who's going to give me what I want from my information about this guy who's hell-bent on covering this up? Another part of this lie. Remember the whole breakup of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump? And it happened in 2000. Well, he was finally busted in 2006. Epstein was. So previous to that, they talked about how they had this whole breakup of real estate. And then lately it's been over how he was stealing people like Virginia Giuffre from his properties. The stories keep changing. There's a reason that the stories keep changing, because another aspect of that story is that breakup didn't happen, according to Barry Levine, who's this author who talks about this whole thing. The breakup happened, but then in 2007, apparently it wasn't happening. Watch this.
Research shows from investigative reporting from the Miami Herald that Jeffrey Epstein was actually still on the Mar-a-Lago membership logs up to 2007. Okay, so Trump was still getting money from Jeffrey Epstein up to 2007. Jeffrey Epstein was still paying for his membership at Mar-a-Lago, according to the Miami Herald. And that, of course, is a year after Jeffrey Epstein's arrest in Florida in 2006. So if
he kicked him out for being a creep,
yes,
that would have even been a year after that would have been established through a legal suit.
Correct.
Did he kick him out for being a creep? Or did he say he kicked him out for being a creep? Or did he kick him out, or did he have a breakup with him, a friendship, because of some real estate deal? Who knows? Who cares? This guy just lies every opportunity that he gets, and he doesn't think enough people will connect the dots. Yo, this is way worse than even the people with Trump derangement syndrome could have figured out. Or, maybe it's not. Maybe those folks did always know this. You know what else people have always known? There's a very long video that details 16 different women who have come forward. And if you look at the video, it's actually pretty old. So it's not from 2025 as this is blowing up in his face. The accusations about Donald Trump have been going on for decades, not a decade, decades. This isn't new information, as he likes to talk about. What's not new information is how much he assaults women. Matter of fact, when he beat Hillary Clinton and everyone thought that his whole grab him by the genitalia was going to get him derailed from his campaign, and it didn't, because we have enough disgusting people here, it's confirmed over and over and over and over and over again. I don't have tons of time because I have a third story to get to, but I'm going to show you guys just this one woman, Temple Taggart. She told her story a long time ago. And if you have an opportunity to see this, I think you'll understand that this didn't happen in 2025. She told her story before, and too many people ignored it.
I met Mr. Trump when I was representing Utah as a contestant in the Miss USA pageant in 1997. Mr. Trump greeted me with a hug and a kiss on my lips. I was shocked because that was the first time that any man had ever greeted me in that manner. But I ended up excusing Mr. Trump's behavior as a way that East Coast people greet each other. After the pageant, Mr. Trump invited me to meet with him in New York to discuss my future. He indicated that he wanted to introduce me to various modeling agencies. I have traveled to New York with 2 chaperones to meet with him at his office located in Trump Tower. To my surprise, Mr. Trump embraced me and kissed me on the lips for a second time. It was that second kiss that made me wonder what his intentions really were. What he did made me feel so uncomfortable that I ended up cutting my trip short, bought my own plane ticket, flew home, and never spoke to him again. Mr. Trump, in the debate, denied ever acting on what he stated in the Access Hollywood tape that he had done to women. I thought to myself, how can he deny that? He had kissed me on the lips twice without my consent. And it was that second kiss that was definitely a different kiss. He looked at me different. The way he hugged me was different. It was just a totally different experience where that's where I kind of just was stunned going, what the heck does he think this is? One by one, more accusers started coming forward with similar accusations against Mr. Trump. He referred to us all as liars. To make matters worse, he even threatened to sue me and all of his accusers. I felt like Mr. Trump was trying to silence all of his accusers who had come forward, as well as others who may be thinking of coming forward. That's when I felt enough is enough, and I needed to stand up to Donald Trump. I feel that he is trying to bully and frighten us into silence. Mr. Trump, that is not going to work with me. I have told the truth about my experience with you, and I am not going to be silenced. I am not afraid of you, Mr. Trump. If you carry out your threat to sue me, I will defend myself. I'm a Republican, and I want to be an example to others that might be able to come forward, and I want to be strong and dignified in how I react. And so I'm willing to face him head on if possible. I know that I'm telling the truth, and the truth is the greatest defense.
That's not new video. And as I was talking about, this Brave New Films video that has multiple women talking about their experiences with being sexually assaulted by Donald Trump. It's a pattern. It works for who he is. It works for what he said on Howard Stern's show over the years. It works for what he said on hidden cameras and audio being captured of him. It's worse what happened when he saw a 12-year-old girl going up an escalator and he said he's going to be dating her. We don't have to go through all of it again because we've all heard it. It's just we ignore it. And listen to him say, I'm going to sue you. And then after saying he's going to sue them, like he said to that woman, Temple, I'm forgetting her last name, Temple Taggart, that it'll all just go away. And for him, it's all just gone away enough for him to continue to ascend back to this level of politics where he is, instead of doing anything good for the country, destroying it. Probably one of the worst people that's ever lived. I got like 13 minutes left. I got one more thing to get to. It was a bit crazy. It was kind of comedy almost. But what I was trying to figure out was why this president had all of these athletes in the White House to talk about his new initiative. One of them was just as confused as I was.
No, sir. I'm just proud to be on this team. I don't know why. I don't know what we're supposed to be doing, but I'm here to serve, and I'm here to serve you. Okay, so I'm gonna do the best I can for as long as I can. Thank you very much.
Nobody like him.
No,
There's definitely nobody like Lawrence Taylor, former NFL player from the New York Giants from the 80s, 90s. He has been invited to be a part of this coalition, as you see a few other athletes behind Donald Trump there, to talk about who the hell knows what. Who knows? They just invited me here, but I'm still here to serve, which I think indicated and illustrated to us as the reasons why he's there. Because all he has to do is say, hey, Lawrence, come down to the White House. I want you to be a part of this whole thing. And he'd be like, I don't know what that is, but I'll be there to serve you. I'll brainlessly come down there and put my face in front of it. Yes, I'll be there. That's why by the way, you answered your own question, Lawrence. That's why he invited you, because you have no effing clue why you're there. You're just there to try to make him look better. Little does he know, Lawrence Taylor being standing next to him as all this stuff swirls around him, it's probably not a good look. It doesn't enhance your persona and your character as much as you think it does. But still, he was there, and you guys may have noticed someone else being there. Triple H from WWE. His real name is Paul Levesque. I believe that's how it's pronounced. And again, because this president only knows how to try and promote himself and make himself look better, this is how Triple H helped out Donald Trump in having to do with this initiative that has nothing to do with wrestling.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game! Time to play the game.
I guess as long as you have, a former WWE wrestler come out and spit water everywhere and do his entrance, that people will forget about all the devastating things you've been doing in the country. I mean, it's worked to a certain degree. I guess I understand why he's doing it. Let's have Triple H come out and spit some water in his suit and stand there and act like he's entering the wrestling arena so that then people will forget what's actually going on. Matter of fact, what was going on? I had to look it up, so let me go ahead and tell you. What are they doing here? Why this? By the way, Harrison Buckner or whatever his name is, the kicker from the Chiefs, who said it was at a graduation ceremony and spoke and told graduating women there that they should shut the fuck up, go back home and cook and clean instead of having any kind of career. That guy was there too. But this is what they were there for. So President Trump was joined by professional athletes on Thursday as he signed an executive order that will expand on his council on sports, fitness, and nutrition, that including by reviving the presidential fitness test in public schools. I totally remember the presidential fitness test. I'd forgotten all about it. I was like in 5th grade, and we have to do the damn rope climb, and then the girls had to do the flex arm hang where they start shaking. And then the guys had to do the pull-ups. Then we do the sit-ups and we count those. And sometimes kids would cheat, but then the PE teacher would walk around and try and make sure we're doing the stuff right, because it's very important to make sure you get on the presidential fitness list. I think that's what it's presidential fitness test for public schools, to make sure that kids are in shape and doing the thing that they need to do. There's more. That's why they were there, at least. So on this order for presidential fitness test, it formally reestablishes it. And it is at first introduced by Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1966. And it created school-based programs that reward excellence in physical education and developing criteria for a presidential fitness award. Yeah. So from the late 1950s until 2013, that's when it all ended, graduate scholars all across our country competed against each other in the presidential fitness test. And it was a big deal. This was a wonderful tradition, and we're bringing it back, is what Trump was saying at this event as well. You ever stop and think about this guy in his self-promotion? As I point out, Triple H was there, Lawrence Taylor was there, but it seems the only reason he wants to bring back the Presidential Fitness Award is so he can say, I, Donald Trump, the president, is anointing you as being a good fitness kid. And he wants to connect his name to something else that sounds prestigious to him, the Presidential Fitness Award. Hey, that sounds old and played out. Let me put my name on it so I can continue to promote myself. This has nothing to do with what it is that they're saying. It has to do with self-promotion. That's how he operates. More. So this is the reasons behind it. This order, which the White House says addresses, quote, the widespread epidemic of declining health and physical fitness, it instructs the Presidential Council to partner with professional athletes who he had there, sports organizations, and influential figures to try and make sure that this is now widespread, it's picked up, and people pay attention to it. Because if his old wrinkly ass stands up there and talks about it, no one gives a damn. And if he's standing there next to who was also there, RFK Jr., and goes up there and talks about presidential fitness awards, no one gives a damn, because all they'll see is a vaccine denier and a big conspiracy theorist who got brought on because he made a deal with Donald Trump during the campaign to drop out so he'll help his ass out. That's what we'll see. I feel like I'm being too negative about this. It's probably actually doesn't mean much. Who cares? The guy wants to bring back the Presidential Fitness Award. Fine, whatever. Who cares? It's just the spectacle of it and the distractions of this that'll get your mind off of the very serious negative things that he's doing to the country. So as he's standing there, and with Triple H, who just walked out there and spit his water everywhere, he wants to introduce all the people that he knows and loves, his good friends, the people that try and make him look better. Except when they try and make him look better, he doesn't really know what they look like.
14-time WWE world champion and oh, that's still very strong. He's a strong guy. And it's great to have you. And you felt very strongly about this, about the council.
Sorry, guys, you didn't see it. Let me run it again.
14-time WWE world champion, and he's a man who you're not going to mess around with. Even Bryson said, I think I'll take a pass on him, right? You're going to take. And he's another one who's been my friend for a long time. He's really an amazing athlete. Triple H. There he is. Oh, that's still very strong. He's a strong guy. And it's great to have you. And you felt very strongly about this, about the council.
100%. So that's what Triple H was there for, to stand there as he introduces the whole thing. And they, I guess, make sure that these things are implemented the correct way. That's how these things work. But he was there also to talk about all the control that he wants to have over college sports, the NIL situation. I'm not sure how many of you guys follow how closely what's going on with college sports, NCAA, and how they, for forever, took advantage of collegiate athletes, so that these universities and athletic departments at these universities make hand over fist millions upon hundreds of millions of dollars, which go to coaches, professional coaches who are adults, who aren't in college, but they make millions upon millions of dollars. And when that was the attempt was to remedy that with NIL deals, where top athletes or these folks involved can get paid to a certain degree, so that they don't just waste their athletic prowess in college. And the majority of them don't make it to the pros, or they're in sports that don't have a huge professional league where you can make hundreds of millions of dollars. When people had the opportunity to potentially get some level of compensation for all of their work, it changed up, and Donald Trump wants different kinds of controls over it. I know we only have a couple minutes, but I did want to show you guys his rambling answer as to the control he wanted to have over college sports and NIL. So in case you guys didn't understand how it works, maybe we'll run through it a little bit more. Here we go.
But they're going to also be working on college football in terms of what happened. It's a mess. What happened? It's what they're doing with college football, and the fans are upset about it. And players are being taken from team after team and being traded around like playing cards. And a lot of money's passing, and nobody knows what's happening. So these people behind me are going to be very much involved in figuring that whole thing out and working on it and trying to bring some sanity to that incredible, not only the football, college sports, very, very bad for women, very bad what's happening, because now all of a sudden there's no women that are able to get the money that they're talking about. You know, it seems to be going mostly to football, some basketball, and women's sports are being totally decimated. We know that, Annika, you know, with this, it's all going into football, and some to basketball, and everything else is being left behind. And women are being left behind, and lesser sports are being left behind, and the Olympics is being decimated, because that was like training for the Olympics, and now we're not going to have that many of those sports left. The smaller sports, they're almost going to be completely wiped out. This is crazy what's going on. We banned men from competing in women's sports, and last week the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee announced that they will be complying with that order, so there won't be men playing in women's sports. That seemed like an easy one. They say it's an 80-20 issue during the campaign. I said, no, that's not 80-20. That's 97-3. Maybe it's 98-2, perhaps. And last Thursday, we terminated third-party pay-for-play schemes in collegiate athletics, and effectively saving. We saved college sports, but now we have to make it. We have to heal it, because it's really a mess. It's a real mess. This council will play an important role in shaping these new policies and ensuring that we preserve the American athletic tradition for many generations to come.
This guy was there to talk about the. This guy was there to talk about the presidential athletic, whatever the hell that thing was, when we were in 5th grade and we had to do it. But instead, he went on to talk about all the deals and the changes he wants to make, this executive order over the NIL deals. But somehow he found himself talking about he's saving women's sports, which there's an aspect of his executive order over the NIL deal which does affect women's sports. But because his brain works only in political hate and division, that connected to him to go on this rant about how he's kept men out of women's sports, because there was this rampant nature of people running through women's sports that was destroying it because of the two trans athletes that we've discovered were in sports. After that, then he has to talk about how he saved it because it was a training ground for the Olympics. And now, though, those committees have vowed to not allow what hasn't been happening. It's a pretty easy vow to make. But again, he has to congratulate himself and take credit for something that wasn't a problem until he started bitching and complaining about a problem that didn't exist. So he uses that moment for that and says he saved college sports. So for those of you guys who care, I'm going to run through what it is that he did, what that executive order was talking about, and how it changed things with college sports, because the NCAA, since they were basically using college kids that played these sports that brought in massive amounts of money and hoarded it for themselves and treated these folks like free labor, since that had been happening since forever, Donald Trump had to step in and say, let me throw you guys a bone again, because they've been complaining about this whole NIL deal thing, which it has its issues, by the way. It needs to be adjusted in a way that actually works more even for these kids, but definitely not to give more power back to the predatory nature of these athletic departments that make tons of money on it, but give $100 million contracts to coaches. Just want to point that out again. So for those of you guys who maybe don't care about this aspect, I'll see you guys soon. Tell John I say hey, and tell him the watch party was a drunken success on a Friday, and you guys are wasted. But let's get into the details of what this executive order did to change the NIL deal. And it's not in place yet. It's another executive order. But check this out. So this is what it does. It prohibits third parties from engaging in direct pay-for-play payments to athletes, which the order deems improper. And right now, school boosters can sign players to multi-million-dollar NIL deals that are widely viewed as a workaround to directly paying players to attend a certain university. Trump's order says players should only earn, quote, fair market value for a legitimate service to a third party, such as a brand endorsement. Adidas, Nike, you've seen some of these college athletes in these Gatorade commercials. Advocates for athletes say that this would impose a cap on their earnings. So really fast, in case, again, some of y'all don't know, since the beginning of time, athletic departments and third parties have been paying certain athletes to go to certain universities to play for those universities and promote their athletic departments and their winnings and their championships and their TV deals and all the money that they can make off of collegiate athletes. I was a track athlete in college. Two of my best friends who ran track with me as well were all like, I guess, football size looking guys. I was the smallest of all three of us. And we walked, the football practice field was right across from the track stadium. I'm not lying to you. I walked, three of us were walking, and this random old dude walked up on us and said, "Oh, you guys play ball?" We were wearing USC track gear. It was pretty prominent in front of us. And he goes, "Oh, you guys play ball?" Like football, because it's one of the major sports there, obviously. And we said, "No, we run track." And he goes, "Well, I'm sure you guys could, return some kicks or something like that." And in that collective moment, all three of us sat there and said, why is this old man trying to talk to us about what we should be doing as far as athletics? Because all of us had played football in the past, and we know whether or not we can play football and what we could do. But he's going to suggest us what it is that we could do. And it started finally computing to me. And he goes, "Well, you guys can maybe return some kicks." And what that is a third party that would be looking to recruit athletes that are potentially faster than maybe some of those football players, because they're track guys I just ran into, to maybe return some kickoffs because we need some more wins under our belt. And he might have had a kickback of, who knows, $5, $10, $50,000. Who knows? But that happened to certain athletes, and the athletes got punished for it. And those boosters and those people who came along to hand off some of their money to athletes who are struggling in college because they're not allowed to do other things when they're on a scholarship for the school, basically a contract where they're working for the school to make them tons of money where they get nothing back. He said, "I'll give you guys some money to return some kicks." And I said, "This is how it works." That's how it used to work. And now that there's more of an organization behind it, NCAA doesn't like that as much. They can't work the black market of using athletes the same way that they used to. and they need to fix it. Here's another thing that this executive order does. There's also protections on scholarships for non-revenue sports, requiring schools to maintain or increase scholarships for such sports, depending on the revenue of their athletic departments. This will be a measure largely to protect Olympic sports and women's sports from potential decreases in funding as more money goes to revenue-generating athletes in football and basketball, two of the major revenue-generating sports that we'll see. Now, like I said, there's issues with NIL, and this potentially was one of them that they're trying to remedy. So with the NIL deals and with all the money now being even more focused from the universities, the way that formerly boosters and people doing illegal activities that they never got caught for, that they tried to do with me and a couple of my buddies, now that the schools could be focused more on it, they know that they're sending money in certain directions for certain sports, even more than they did before. And that would harm some of these women's sports or some of the smaller named sports that don't get the kind of attention that basketball and football get, say the water polos of the world, the tennises, all those sports. So it does help them. So there's an aspect that, I mean, I didn't read deep into the whole executive order that could actually mean something. But the main thing is to give more control right back to these institutions that are using kids. So I'm again, that potentially is a decent part. Here's more. Now, a clarification from the National Labor Relations Board on the employment status of athletes, quote, that will maximize the educational benefits and opportunities provided by higher education institutions through athletics. That's the clarification that they're making from the National Labor Relations Board to make sure the kids are getting their education. So during the Biden administration, the NLRB issued a memo stating that certain college athletes should be considered employees. Now that memo now has been rescinded, and now Trump is seeking to codify athletes as non-employees, which would almost certainly take away any opportunity that they have to collectively bargain with schools, taking more power away from the athletes that just got some power. And the power has allowed them to then transfer without the same kinds of barriers that the NCAA put in place. Because beforehand, say you're playing for the University of Alabama and you're not getting much playing time, or you don't like the coach, or something happened and you want to maybe go back home. Maybe you're from Virginia, you want to go play over there. So you transfer, but in order to do that, you have to sit out for a full year. This is the previous rules. You have to sit out for a full year and lose out on that opportunity in order to then come back and maybe not have the same kind of momentum and all that. So after that was taken away and kids have been transferring year to year to different universities, that's frustrated fans, coaches, athletic departments that lose people the same way professional athletes can potentially move in different ways through their professional sports. It was getting a little bit too much freedom there for folks, because what we like is having control over these student athletes because they're students first. That is, until they go to too many classes and don't study the playbook enough, then don't get any playing time to live out their dream of becoming a professional athlete. I'm just laying it out for you the way it is. Very last part, and I'm gonna let you guys go. For those of you guys that love the sports talk. But this isn't even sports talk. This is politics within the sport. Last one. More things that this executive order is looking to do. So protections for the NCAA from lawsuits by athletes is what he wants to add to it. The NCAA has been lobbying for these protections for many years, as many of the big changes in college athletics have come as the result of these antitrust lawsuits. Protections against further court cases would allow the NCAA to enforce its rules on issues such as transfers, as I was talking about, and third-party payments without fear of them being upended by another court ruling. They want their control back. And if we're punishing athletes for moving and transferring based off of whatever reasons that they have, we got to get that back. So like I said, I think the majority of this is probably not that great. And there's probably some tweaks and changes that can happen to the NIL process and the way that folks get paid and how it takes money from other sports and aspects of the university. But I did notice someone say this in the chat. There's one way to clear this whole thing up with the scholarships and using athletes and all that, is to stop having this policy that we have in higher education where these universities are charging every student $50, $60, $70, $80, $90, $100,000 to go to school, so that there's these incentives for them to get scholarships so they won't have to pay as much or none at all if they happen to get good enough scholarships to avoid those exorbitant costs that literally no one can afford. So you put them in this hole, go to college, go to college, go to college. Hey, be an athlete, be an athlete, be an athlete. But in order to do all that, you have to be beholden to us based off of our exemption from you having to pay us hundreds of thousands of dollars and maybe that slight chance that you'll go pro. The system is always geared towards the richest and the most powerful to have more riches and more power. That's who Donald Trump serves. That's what he said he was going to serve. Let's see how many of you guys are left after that. It's just a little test. I love my sports, guys. Glad you guys were here. And I appreciate you guys for showing up for another week on Watch Parties. Only 10 minutes behind. I had to get that NIL stuff out. For all those of you guys who are still here, we'll see you guys later. If you're going over to the damage report, again, let's have a second raid of the Watch Party. Give a couple drunk emojis with some alcohol bottles or something, even though all we've had is water this morning. We'll see you guys next week. I appreciate you guys for being here. We'll see what happens over the weekend as this story about all this madness gets buried. I'll talk to you guys on Monday. We'll see you later.